It's been so long since I did a deck profile, and it's been even longer since I did a non-frog deck profile, but today I have a very special Fluffal profile for you, and I don't necessarily think Fluffals are the best deck of the format, but I like Fluffals a lot, and I recently purchased those Ultimate Rare Brilliant Fusions, so I wanted to play them in something, and I think this is a really fun deck to play at like locals, and maybe even a regional qualifier. It probably can't beat Spirals, but I think it has a pretty good chance against other stuff, because Fluffals can just sort of sneak in wins, and we're playing this really cool zombie engine, which is pretty sweet, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But anyway, this is Zombie Fluffals, featuring Brilliant Fusion. First of all, we have 3 Fluffal Dog. Without a doubt, one of the most important Fluffal cards. It's sort of your engine starter. You can search any of the Fluffal monsters when you summon it, and that's really cool. It's also level 4, which means you can pair it with a level 4 Unizombie that you increase and make a level 8 Synchro monster or a rank 4. And yeah, it's a Stratos, not much to say about it. We're also playing 3 copies of Fluffal Bear. Now, this card, I think that some people play it at 2 copies, but I like 3. It's definitely like one of the best starter cards, and this card is actually better in some cases than Dog if you have a Brilliant Fusion, just to get your Brilliant Fusion combo going. Which is when you use Brilliant Fusion to send wings to the graveyard and then do some crazy draws. But you need a toy vendor on the field, so Bear gets you to it. We also are playing 2 copies of Wings. This card clogs a lot if you play it at 3 copies, but 1 copy, you're sort of... I mean, it's pretty scary, because if you play 1 copy, it's kind of like a second Garnet, because if you draw it, then you can't use your Brilliant Fusion. And you really want to use it for Brilliant Fusion. So I want to play 2 copies. And sometimes you can resolve its effect twice, and that's like a huge swinging card advantage. We're also playing 2 copies of Fluffal Penguin. This card's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it was better when like Bahamut Shark and Toad were like fine, but now that Link Summoning is out, you can't really play that combo anymore. But it's still a solid card, good attack points, and the effect is good as well for just cycling through your deck. For the one-ofs, we have 1 Fluffal Owl and 1 Fluffal Cat. These are just my go-to one-of Fluffal cards. You can play 2 Owls if you want. This deck's already slightly over 40 cards, though, so I'm not sure if you just play another card or take out something. But I like Cat just for adding back the polymerization, but I think Owl is really important for searching the polymerization. For the Edge Imps, we have 3 Chain and 1 Sabers. I think it's just like the standard Edge Imp setup. Nothing pretty crazy here. Obviously, we don't have Right for Patrick, though, so you got to hard draw these cards. Well, you can search Sabers, but the one that you really want to have is Chain, but you can't search it. So just hope that you draw it, because if you do, your win percentage goes up significantly. For the Zombie Engine, we have 3 copies of Solitaire, 2 Mizuki, and 2 Unizombie. It's sort of just the standard 7-card zombie engine, and what this does in here is gets us to Sci-Fan Lord Omega. Now that card's really, really good in Fluffals. Mainly, you can recycle your Mizukis, but you can also recycle Fluffal Wing and get its effect multiple times, which I think is great. And then you can put cards back that you banished with Fright for Fusion for maybe a 2nd copy of Fright for Fusion, or just a whole bunch of stuff. And Omega's really good in Link Summoning because it takes itself off the field, and then when it comes back, it goes in the main monster zone. And I think this gives the deck enough sort of going first strategy that you can actually win, because it's not really just good enough to make Fight for Sabretooth and Fight for Sheep anymore. That was pretty good in Zoo format, but not really anymore. But if you can do that and have an Omega, I think it's a pretty good opening turn. And Omega just gains you more and more advantage every turn that the duel goes on. We also have the 1 copy of Gem Knight Garnet. You have to play this card when you're playing Brilliant Fusion. No reason to play anything else. Lazuli isn't that great in this deck because you don't have any normal monsters. For the hand traps, we have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and 1 copy of Maxi. This is just like the safe go-to hand trap package. If you really can't afford Ash Blossom, that's fine. You can also play like Ghost Ogre, I suppose. I mean, really, if you can't afford any hand traps, I suppose you just not play any of these, but I definitely recommend it. These cards are really good for just every single matchup, so you want to have them. We are playing 3 copies of Toy Vendor. Best spell in the deck. Fixes hands, starts combos. You hit it with Wings to gain like 1,000 in card advantage. Really great card, and like it a lot. We are playing, I mean, the reason that I put this set together, we got these 3 Brilliant Fusions. Oh man, that I just got to show it off again. They're so cool looking. It's better than I ever imagined. and even still, I imagine it was going to be pretty darn cool, so the fact that it's better than I imagine is crazy. Yeah, Brilliant Fusion's crazy in this deck. Anytime that you can resolve this card and you have, like, access to Toy Vendor or Dog or Bear, you pretty much just win the game immediately because of all the advantage you gain, and then you can use the cards to summon Synchro monsters in this version because of the zombie monsters. So Brilliant Fusion, 10 out of 10. I can't believe people don't play it in their versions of Fluffals. I mean, I've seen it excluded from some lists, and I just don't understand it. It's such a huge swing in card economy when it resolves. 3 copies of Polymerization. Yeah, is there anything to say about this card? Probably not. It's like your go-to fusion card, so that's kind of neat. Once again, another card that would be searchable with Fright for Patrick, but I guess we don't have that card. For the Fright for spells, we're playing 2 fusions and 1 factory. These cards are good. I played 1 and 1 for a really long time, but I actually think fusion is so important that I bumped it up to 2 copies per deck. The reason being, fusion is one of those cards that it's like the best top deck when both you and your opponent are down to no cards. Most importantly, you can top deck Fright for Fusion to summon Fright for Wolf from the extra deck and sometimes steal some wins. Because Fright for Wolf is a card you usually don't summon if it's like a complicated game state because it doesn't do that much, but it is really, really effective at closing out games, and Fright for Fusion is by far the most efficient way to summon it. You do a lot of fusion summons, put a lot of cards in the grave, Fright for Fusion for a wolf that can attack like 7 times, and you just win the game from there. For the one-ofs, we're playing 1 Foolish Burial Goods and 1 Foolish Burial. A lot of people play like only Foolish Burial Goods, and they play like 3 copies of it or 2 copies of it. But I really like Foolish Burial, and I think, especially in this deck where you have the zombie monsters, so you can Foolish Burial for Mizuki, I think it's a really strong pick. The reason I don't like Foolish Burial Goods that much is because you really don't want to just burn all of your Toy Vendors. Yeah, it's kind of cool playing this card to search any Fluffal monster by getting rid of Toy Vendor, but I never want to play more than 1 Foolish Burial Goods in a game. I don't want to get rid of that many Toy Vendors, because if you use 2 Foolish Burial Goods, so now you have 1 Wing in deck that's dead, and I'd much rather resolve the Wing effect, which gets you 2 draws and a Fluffal, then I'd rather resolve 1 Foolish Burial Goods, which only gets you a Fluffal monster. So that's sort of my logic there. Also, not really space for any more copies of those cards, but yeah, I think that the 1-in-1 ratio is really good. We're also playing 1 Soul Charge and 1 Instant Fusion. Now, I almost went a super meme route with this deck and played multiple Instant Fusion and like Sea Monster Theseus, but that card's actually just so bad that it's not worth it. But Instant Fusion's good in this deck because you can summon Fright for Sheep with it, and then if you have like Instant Fusion, Polymerization, and then something else, you can then summon a Fright for Sheep, Fusion Summon into Fright for Sabretooth, and go from there. Pretty good play, because Sheep is maybe not inarguably the best Fright for Fusion monster, but it's definitely one of the best monsters just because it's 6 on the board. Soul Charge is particularly good because we have the zombie monsters once again, so don't think I need to explain that. But Soul Charge, really good card. That's it for the main deck. It's 44 cards, so yeah, it's a little more than 40, but you get a lot of different redundant cards, so I think it's perfectly fine. For the extra deck, there's a lot of fusions in here, so we have 3 Fright for Sabretooth, really good card, and it's probably like your best defense against Link format, or Link summoning or whatever, because this card brings back the monster to the main monster zone, so you can actually do this, have 2 fusion monsters on the board, and you can do most of your old OTKs with Fright for Sabretooth. You can't do all of them because of Link summoning, but most of them you can still do. For example, with our 2 copies of Kraken here, you can still do the Kraken Sabretooth combo to do exactly 8,000 damage. That combo is way easier when we have Patrick, if we ever get Patrick, but for right now, it's still something that you can do if you have the right cards. Mainly if you just have Edge of Chain, you can do it pretty easily. But yeah, Kraken's really good. Really good offensive card, really good defensive card, really good board control card, just does everything. I'm playing 2 copies of Sheep. Is this controversial? I don't know, but I really like Sheep, and I do think it's one of the best Fright for monsters, just because of its survivability, keeps your board up, so it's good. 1 Fright for Tiger, probably would play more if you could control more than 1, but you just kind of use it to blow up boards. But I don't know, it's all right. You never really want to summon more than 1 a game, so I guess it's fine. 1 Wolf, just for that Fright for Fusion, basically. You'll almost never summon this card, but the times that you do, you'll probably win the game. And then 1 Seraphinite for the Brilliant Fusion. Don't forget to play Seraphinite. That's always embarrassing when you activate your Brilliant Fusion and realize you forgot to put Seraphonite into the deck. The Synchro Monsters, we have 2 copies of Omega. I don't think I need to explain this card too much. Omega is fantastic. It's also my favorite Synchro Monster, but it's so good in this deck for recycling Mizukis and Wings and the stuff that you banish with Fight for Fusion. You always have something to put back with Omega. Such a good controlling card, and it can really put your opponent in a weird spot because you're taking cards out of their hand while you're building up your resources with the Fight for monsters, and you can usually just OTK because they're down a couple cards. For the Link Monsters, we have 1 Proxy Dragon and 1 Mrs. Radiant. All the Fluffal monsters except for Wings are Earths. You can make it with you can make Mrs. Radiant with them. Also Mizuki is an Earth, and also Seraphonite is an Earth. Proxy Dragon's just the best generic Link 2 monster that has horizontal arrows. So those are pretty straightforward. And then the last card I think is sort of a flex choice. So I thought about playing Levier the Sea Dragon. I suppose you could play a Decode Talker. I suppose you could play a Stardust Dragon. But what I went for in this profile was Baguska. I think this card's a solid control card. You can kind of see where the cards that I just listed all do very different things. So like Levier is a combo-oriented card that you can like overlay with Fluffal Bear and Unizombie or something like that. Stardust Dragon is another another level 8 synchro option. You can also play Decode Talker. That sort of makes your Link summoning a little better. But I think that this card is good because it's a defensive card. And if there's anything this deck lacks just inherently, it's defense. So I really want to play a card where if I brick but can make a rank 4, I can at least sort of stall a few turns. That's going to do it for this deck profile. I was very excited to play Fluffals again. I like this deck a lot. I think the zombies are really cool, and obviously, these Brilliant Fusions are sick, and expect to see them in more deck profiles going forward. I know I haven't posted a lot of deck profiles recently, but I'm going to try to start that up again. Maybe like 1 every couple weeks here. I don't want to burn myself out, but yeah, let me know what you think of this Fluffal build. I think it's a fun casual deck, and I'll see you guys later.